Hello, how we doing, guys? Yo, we're here, we're live. We're doing this. How's it going? Let me know you're here, please. This camera seems awfully high. There we go. Did nothing, but how are we doing, guys? Let me know you're here, please. We've got people on YouTube, we've got people on X, and we've got people on Twitch, believe it or not. Started on Twitch just because I thought I've got a multi-stream on OBS, so it means that I can just like stream to multiple different platforms at once. So I thought might as well. And let's see, X. We'll get into it in a second, just getting all set up. Cool, we got, says 89 people here on X, YouTube, not sure. Cryptic Piano says, good morning. Hello. Hello, Cryptic Piano. Hope you're well. Thank you for letting me know. Anyone else say hi? It's cool. YouTube, we're also going. JMO's there on YouTube. And hopefully this chat is going to work. Oh, I can never get it to work, man. And then every time I look to do the stream, I haven't got enough time to get it sorted. I need to find some time to do this. Right. So here's what we're going to do on the stream today. We are going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Hyperliquid. We are going to do market reviews and trade plans for them so we can kind of see what's going on, where I couldn't really do as much in the videos. Let's try to keep them short, but we can go into a bit of a deeper dive here. May not be needed, to be fair. Then the second part, we'll do any chart requests. So if you've got any charts that you want me to look at and just do some TA on, let me know. You can let me know now, or you can let me know when I ask. If you do it sooner, then it's better because I can get straight to it. And then also Q&As. And then I'm going to do a section where I'm going to teach some technical analysis. So I'm going to be teaching about how to trade around the extremes of supply and demand zones, the levels which I call max pain level. It's not something I came up with. It's where I learned from, readthemarket.com. And they call it max pain level. It's basically max pain for a reason. So if you're looking, for example, here, and you are short, and you've got to stop the other side of it, when it comes close right to the extreme of the level, it's called max pain because you're in max pain because you are very close to being stopped out. But they're very good levels to trade around, and we'll talk about that. And then the last section where I like to do something a little bit more trader mindset, trader lifestyle, trader psychology, if you like, do a chapter on that where we'll be talking about how lonely it is being a trader and how it feels to be a trader and also a dad. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people who can relate to this. So just kind of want to spill my guts out a little bit on that. So let's get straight into it. Bitcoin. Let's just go over the map just so we know where we are for the sake of the stream. So this big low was the February sell-off, and then we had this range high at 71,926. We floated around there for ages, faked above the range, and then came straight back down into it. I believe this is the target for the down move. I feel like it's going to come down there at some point. And then locally on the daily time frame, we're ranging. If I just remove this and then draw it quickly, we are ranging at the bottom of this range. So very curious to see how it goes, but we can see that it is kind of respecting the lows and the highs quite nicely so far. So that's kind of where we're at on Bitcoin. On H4, we've got two key levels which I've marked. So the top one, and this goes back to what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about the extreme of levels. This is the extreme of this supply zone. It's about 68K. It's not yet been tested. And then we have this key level, which is formed where we take out a low. It is a retrace point, but it gives us a little bit of an idea of it being a key level. And then it retraces and then sells off to create a new low, even though we've ended up just wicking down there. We know this is a key area. We know that there's selling liquidity here because it's where there was a massive impulse down, which led to lower lows. And then if we just look a little bit higher, because you might say, well, this is where the actual sell-off came from. This is where we reacted to the price action on the left, which reacted up to here, which reacted to this point. So we can see in terms of fresh orders, we've got just this point here, which I wouldn't be surprised to see it come and visit. And we'll talk about that in a later section. Essentially, it's kind of how price tends to behave. It kind of gravitates towards these extremes of areas for the sake of, I mean, the story I've always told myself, which makes the most logical sense, is it's where the deepest liquidity lies. It's where the biggest sell-off happened within that zone to probably push out of that zone. So it always kind of tends to move back there. And then basically, I'm looking for shorts around this area. It was looking quite productive there, but then we've had a big a big pump to the upside, currently a lower high on the break of this level. And if you like, this is kind of what I'm expecting on that daily time frame. So let's pretend the area I've just marked is that daily time frame, and it pushed up above 82k and then dropped down, and then we're kind of ranging down at the lows. This is kind of what I'm expecting on a higher time frame around here. Similar sort of thing. So it's just, in my opinion, at the moment, it is building. If it doesn't go here, then 68k is that next sort of area I'm looking for it to move up to, because it's untested supply. This came very close to it, but it didn't come all the way to the extreme. So that would be where I'd look to short. Above that, we start maybe looking a bit bullish, because this is where the big sell-off happened to create a low. And this is basically where price is being held down by at the moment. And if it starts making higher highs above this point, above 68k, I'm going to start looking long. I'm going to start looking to just buy into the market. I'm getting really fucking bored of being bearish. Obviously, I say that with a little bit of over-exaggeration. I will not just blindly buy. I'll have plans, of course, but above 68k is where I would look to start changing my tune a little bit. So on the hourly time frame, we have a bit of a range that formed on the shoulder of this supply zone, and it looked like it was going to go. But as we were saying in the Discord, it was Monday. It's probably going to put in a nice bear trap. So it ranges, takes out the high, comes back into the range, breaks out again, but can't sustain it, drops all the way down. And then technically this has started looking like it should come back up and then drop, but has ripped all the way back up to the previous high. And we've seen this type of behavior before up here at 82k, where it looked like it was going to go. I can't remember the exact range I used. I think it was that. But it kind of goes, pushes around, fakes the lows, fakes the highs a couple of times, and then starts going. And it looks like it's going to go at this point, but then pushed up right to the highs, puts a fake out high in, and then drops. I don't know if it's going to do exactly the same, but it reminds me of that, because it really did look like a nice 3 drive structure. 1, 2, 3 highs at supply. Also hit into this little area here. Kind of hit this zone, which is the where another sell-off created a new low. So we kind of got a lot of confluence for being bearish at this point, except for the fact that we had this big scam pump that happened today. So if this has some legs to it and does keep moving up, 68k is the next area where I'm going to be looking for shorts, because again, we're still in bearish market structure, and it gets to that point at 68k where it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to respect it or it's going to break it. If it respects it, this is going to be a killer short opportunity, and I think it will undo all of this range in the same way that 82k did, and then head a lot lower. But like I said before, if it starts getting above there, especially with some strength, I might have to start changing my tune a little bit and start looking on the bull side. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but because I don't think this buying looks particularly strong, I still think we're more likely to get exhaustion or fake out a little bit higher and then come back down. But if I can't get a position here, Then 68K is my next target area. My next position would basically look like it coming down and taking out the lows and closing back below where we had this pump. And we tend to sort of get on Bitcoin on the early parts of the week a move where, you know, you'll have the open, and then it will look like it's going to do this, and it'll come up maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Thursday start to break down. So we might get something similar to that. But this scam pump over the course of the afternoon has looked like a bear trap for a start, but it's kind of muddied the water a little bit in terms of the price action is now a little bit less clean to read, but I still expect it to probably do the same sort of thing where even if it topped out here, if it comes down and creates a lower low, I believe it should be following through. So I will look for this to start breaking down. If we look down on M15, we can see a nice little structure has formed. We could mark the range like that as the high of the range. And it spams right back into it, and it might find resistance here and then start to look to go. So on an intraday level, I prefer, even though it's kind of getting late now, so I'm probably not going to get a trade on it. I'm probably going to use my bot to enter on any closes below this next range low. But if it starts ranging around here and looking like breaking down with some strength, this is going to be a nice double top and a high. The opposite side of that is that if it now starts ranging up and pushing up, it's likely to head up to 68K. So for any longs, that would be a nice target, maybe a little bit before rather than going right for the extreme. But we could see price here now just kind of ranging, and then maybe it pushes like it's going to go higher and then fakes to the downside, and then you can get the short. I'm not really sure is the answer. This is why I say I'm looking for shorts. I'm looking for the price action to build in a productive way where it looks readable, it looks clean, and then get an impulse through it and a rejection through it, just to give us a signal of what it wants to do, and then look to get in on a retrace. Or, you know, like I said, it might end up pushing higher, in which case you can chase that up to about 68K. It might push up, and then you get in on the retrace, like so, in order to start pushing up. So if it does push up, comes back down and holds it, then I think that's a nice sign of getting long. Or, you know, it could push up and then create new lows, in which case that's actually the inverse, which would be a nice short scenario. So yeah, that is Bitcoin. I don't really think I've got anything else to add on that. I do believe that we'll be topping out at some point, but we've basically put like some nasty Monday PA in, so it's probably going to do a bit of a boring, choppy period over the next few days. I imagine if it is going to top out, it's not fun. I keep saying every time we get to a low and it looks like it's going to go, I keep saying the worst case scenario for everyone is that we just keep prolonging this bullshit, and we just get a retrace, and then it ends up chopping around, and then eventually it drops back down. It'd be nice if we just got a big capitulation and like a really decent confirmation that a bottom's in, because at the moment it's still too up in the air, and yeah, just buying seems inorganic, illiquid, and it's kind of scammy. So I imagine it's going to get eaten through. But the longer we have to put up with this, the more boring life is, and we have to wait. So this was a nice sign, but looks like a trap. Looks like a really typical bear trap. I haven't had any triggers yet for my trades, which is why I have the double confirmation, which is what I talk about. So I'm just looking for that now in order to short. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Meanwhile, we will jump on to Ethereum coin. Right, so similar outlook to Bitcoin. We had this really big range. It fakes above the range and then drops down. And now we've got a bit of another range down here at the bottom of that previous range, something like that. And it's doing similar behavior where it's respected the lows and it's starting to push above the highs, respects the lows, pushes above the highs. So we'd kind of like to see this drop through as a continuation play, in which case, if that is to happen over here on H1, we'll potentially, on H4 as well, potentially putting in a lower high ready for the next drop. So that makes this area a pretty decent area in order to look for shorts. So it's kind of scrappy. It's not the best price action, but if it were to close back down now, especially after putting in a lower high and then puts a lower low, that should be enough of a signal that it wants to go lower. Maybe it does it like that. Maybe it comes back up and does it again and then goes. I don't know, but a lower low at this point after a lower high and respecting this range would look more like a top. We have this area here, which is where the buy-in took place to put this swing in and to take out this key area where the sell-off moved us all the way down. This was an attempt, this level, to change the market structure, and it's still sort of within that attempt, if you like. Intra-week, it has been bullish. Obviously, last week was bullish, but this really is the key level, which is holding us down, 1880, and has not yet been tested. And we can actually refine that a little bit further to the top of the impulse here at about 1925. So that would be if we are pushing up a nice target for longs, but also a place where I'll be looking for exhaustion to break back down and then sell it off and get better risk reward and a bigger move. But we have to wait and see. There's nothing that I've seen to action yet. It could come down, take this level out, retrace, push up like that. Or if you're bullish bias because it has taken out this high now, a retrace down to here is really where you want to get long. You don't really want to start chasing it up here because you're doing it slap bang into resistance in a downtrend. But if it does come down here to about 1700, you can look for reversal patterns and for this key area to hold and then look to long up to that 1920 or 1880 sort of level and then get a nice move. But at the moment, it's anyone's guess what it's going to do. It's just the fact that we've retraced into key supply in a downtrend. The volume's weakening, the price action is weakening, it's going more sideways. Makes me think it's starting to be a good time to look for shorts again soon. But I just don't think maybe we're there yet. I still think maybe we've got a little bit more time to go. But we'll see what happens. We just have to be reactionary. Well, I'm certainly reactionary, but I find it harder to read at this point as well because we have key areas which have yet been hit and we're not seeing enough strength to the downside just yet. So it makes me feel like we've got more time to wait if you're looking short as we're going to move up a little bit more. But I would personally, I'm just waiting to see more price action. It may build here. You know, we've got a bit of a range within a range, but let's say this might build at this point overnight or something, and then look to break down like that, as Ethereum kind of does. It does build quite big tops. If we look at, oops. If we look at this big top before, remember, we shorted this in Discord and it comes up. It takes a long time to build that high. And then even with the continuation, it takes a long time to build the continuation. So I'm expecting this might build if it's going to build over the next few days rather than just completely go. But we'll wait and see what develops. We have a nice map in this range with the high at about 1805 and then the low down here at about 1758. I think it's a bit cleaner on H2. But all of this is a chain. All of this is a chain. So you'll get the early signs around here if it's going to top out. But really, the market structure intra-week is bullish until 1690 gets taken out. So it's a bit difficult to call. Just need to see more price action, read the flow and see where the momentum's coming, see where the buying's stepping in or the selling's stepping in, see where the strength is, and then we'll align ourselves with that. But we're not there yet. It's building. I just don't know which way it's going to go and if it's going to the upside, if it's going to be sustainable. So we'll see. All right. Any questions on that? Let's see if anyone's asked. Feels like a quiet one this evening. Trap, trap, trap. This is a bull trap. Traps hate it when you chase them. Yeah. Well, so yeah, I agree. I think this entire move up is a bull trap, but I think what we've experienced today on the hourly time frame looks like a bear trap. So Solana daily time frame, just like really clean price action. I really like Solana. So we had the big drop, we had the low here, we had the high here, and we got the range that I mean, I'd been marking it like that because it was a bit cleaner, right? But if you just use the actual low of the range of that big wick, but here it looks like we range sideways, go to push above, and then drops down, big drop and a deviation out of the range, and now it's come back in it, and it's hitting the bottom of this compressed area. So the compressed area is in the mid-range, and you can see that kind of wedge sort of channel there. It drops, ranges, and then impulses out, and it's now testing the lower part of this level. Otherwise, the top of that is about 87.4. So that's key on this time frame. And then if we go down to H4, we can see we have a pretty clean range that has formed at the base of that supply. So around here or up at 87, I'm looking for exhaustion. I'm looking for this to break down, but we're not there yet. We're just not there yet. But it's building, right? And you can see it's building. So we have the range that gets formed. The low gets hit, the high gets hit, the low gets hit, the high gets hit. So we're now just basically waiting for the market to break out and tell us what it wants to do next out of this range. So if I'm long biased, if I feel like this is going to continue, I want to see the lows hold, the highs break, start trading above the range, and look to push up and break out to the upside. Personally, I don't think the risk reward is there because we're quite high up in this current move. We're in a downtrend. We're at key resistance, and there's not a huge amount of space up to the next resistance. So I don't think personally the risk reward is there. However, the strength of the upside recently has been very strong. Obviously, strong narratives with Solana. So you kind of have to take that into consideration. And if you're looking for this to start pushing up, this could be the place where, you know, it just continues to move. Basically, it's going to continue going up. So I would be looking for that if I'm bullish. Also, maybe not there, but at this previous range low, we also have a small area, or like a little cluster, where the buying took place to put in this high. So even if it comes down, you might be able to get a reversal there and then send it up from that point. And this is holding the market structure basically. But if I'm bearish, if I want this to go down, I'm looking at this several ways, which is why I'm just waiting for as much confirmation as possible, essentially. First one is, comes down, takes this level out, which is the most important thing. Maybe getting in a retrace then and send it down. We might get the highs hold and then the lows get broken. Even this might not get tested, but that might be enough of a sign that it's going to come lower anyway and take out this support. Or it comes up closer to the 87 level, get the exhaustion there, and then look to send it down. It could also just do something like this where it fakes to the high and then drops down. Not really sure. So I'm just waiting to see how it builds. It's a really boring answer, but this is essentially how I trade and try and keep my strike rate as high as possible, is just waiting and waiting for the right amount of signs. So far, it hasn't had a strong break of either side of this range, but I'm pretty sure it's going to change over the next 12 hours or so. And then in which case we can align ourselves to a direction tomorrow, or wait for the move to exhaust and then look for the opposite side. So they're the key levels on Solana. This range low at 80.05 and the high 82.49 on the H2 time frame. It's sitting at key daily supply, which is all part of a bigger chain, which takes us up to about $88. So I'm just waiting. basically. So we'll wait and see. It is boring, but profitable trading is boring, really. So yeah, the other scenario is it does come down and then take it out and then build a range like that and then trade it. Similar to like how this kind of drops down, builds a range at support and then crashes through. That's a continuation play. So we'll wait and see if that develops as well. But I can't really call it either way at the moment, but I'm pretty sure at some point this move will exhaust. And then I'll be there. Hyperliquid on H4. Oh, let's start on the daily actually. So it is between two really big levels of supply and demand at the moment. It is built a really clean range. So we had, I'll show you it, and it's pretty clean. The previous all-time high here gets taken out. We have the low here, which fuels the high, comes down to test the low, pushes right up to the high, comes to the mid-range, and is now coming up to test the highs. So now it's a question of, are we going to break upwards, or are we going to put in a lower high, round off, and then send lower and put in a pretty epic looking top to this market? Put your bets on. So if we go down to H2, we have some key areas, right? So this is where the market structure changes intra-week and pushes up to this high. And then we have where the sell-off originated from to create this new low. This is all sort of a reaction to here, so it's tough to really get a decent read on things. But we know if price ranges at this point, as it has done, we can start looking for a trade, because it's either going to do one of two things. It's going to either push above it and continue the trend, or it's going to respect it and go down. So we've got, on the test of it, this range that has formed, and it breaks below the range, it breaks above the range and wicks it, comes back down and wicks the lows. And now I would still say this is in building mode, so it's not like it's given a trigger for me just yet. But if it does something like this and then puts in a higher low, you could start looking for the reversal point, or you could wait for the next higher high after that and then chase this up, and then this would be a pretty nice long, and you would kind of fancy it now to go and make a new all-time high and push closer to $100. But we can see at the moment, again, like everything else, it's still just kind of building, not giving too much away, but leaning bullish on this, because the way it's recovered has been really nice and clean. It's using key demand areas at bottom of the chains very nicely as well. It needs to break below this point at 69 if it's to be a top. So if it does respect the range highs and comes down to make a new low, I would say we probably have a top, and you could look to chase that or get in on a retrace to sell it back down. But that's the key level at 69. This is the sort of the end of this compression where it didn't impulse up, retrace to the extreme of it, and then instead of continuing, it finds enough strength to make the high. So this is the level which is holding everything up, and this is the level which bulls are going to want to hold in order to keep the market going up. So if it does break, that's when you start looking shorts. It could come up here and maybe put in a short trade, but I feel like it might end up just pushing up. So we need more confirmation, but this is looking pretty bullish. You have down here at the range lows, price comes down, you've got a little bit of a channel there, and then it impulses out, comes back up, and then finds strength at this point here to push even higher and then ultimately break this channel. So down at like 69.8 is a good area to look for longs. If it takes out the range high and then comes back down here, this is a great place to start looking for longs. But if it starts breaking the level below, then it's going to be starting to be time to short the market. So like everything else, just waiting for more things to build, but I feel like it's going to probably be tomorrow the way things are looking. It's looking pretty good to start giving some opportunities from, I guess, tomorrow onwards. But my style need a little bit more price action to have a bit more confirmation. But from what we're seeing here, for example, this is looking pretty bullish. And you probably want to position yourselves on a higher low after we get a higher high. If we get a lower high and then it comes down to look like a make a higher low, you need more confirmation, especially like because we haven't broken the resistance. And if you start buying here and then it falls down, like that's why, because you know it hasn't taken out the high. All right. Got some random messages on Twitch which have shown up. So any questions on that? Anything you want me to cover? Have you got any chart requests or questions in general for me? And then we'll answer that in the next section. I'm just going to mute myself and have some water. All right, just have a look. Okay. Highest we go is 66k, then 67k, then crash to 54k. If you were right, that'd be lovely. Yeah, I mean, it might top out here. It does look quite nice to top around here. Maybe even just like a little bit above, but it's certainly looking productive here, right? So any chart requests or anything, any meme coins, any altcoins, any other markets you want me to look at and just apply some TA to? Otherwise, I'll just move on. I'm very happy just to move on. Ghost. Is that just... Are you just yelling out Ghost to me, JMO? What's the ticker? Is it just Ghost? It might not be on here, right? Is this it? Go. I typed aave. I was going to say, man. AAVE. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Ooh. Right. Daily time frame. Oops. So all I do on the daily time frame when I see charts like this, I'm just going to pick out big levels that stand out to me. So we have this bottom here, this very big demand zone. And you can see where we broke out of it and retested it. So it breaks out here, comes down, retests it, puts in a lower high, and has now come right back down into it. So it's at a bullish point, right? And this is kind of a reaction to here. And you can see right down at the lows, all a reaction to this low here. Comes all the way back down. And then what else have we got? We got the breakout here. This low seems important. Takes that out. And hasn't yet hit that ultimate target down at the bottom. Whether that's important or not, I'm not sure. But then we have this supply zone here. This is the extreme of it. Next chapter is going to make more sense when I do all of these. But the whole level I would probably mark like that. It's coming up into it. Looking relatively bullish, of course. But I wouldn't say the market structure has changed until it breaks that 130 level and then starts trending up. But at the moment, this is the level holding everything down. And it could just come up and do what Bitcoin did at 82K, come up and then down to lower lows. So But, you know, statistically speaking, if you're taking coins down at these lows, sort of near the end of the bear market, then you might end up getting rewarded for something like this in a couple of years' time or something. So not a bad shout to buy down here if you believe in the coin. On the local H4, we have this compression area here. And then we've got a range that has formed at the high, like that. And it's failed to break it down. This is looking quite bullish. So I'd say if it starts making higher highs and then higher lows, not a bad shout to get long on that in my onion. Okay. Would like to know your opinion on Mega chart. Mega. Does that help, by the way? Let me know what you think, or if you've got any more questions. Is it just mega this? Mega this? Never heard of this. Just find a good chart. Let me know what chart, like, there we go, Coinbase, better. Mega ETH. Holy shit. Wow. I mean, not really much I can do or say when you see this kind of thing, right? It's just one of those coins where you'd probably take a punt on it because it's so low and it's kind of rounding off. It's kind of like to maybe do that, right? But it could also just dribble down for eternity. So it's kind of one of those things, I'd say, if you've got cash around, like a little bit of cash spare, and you want to take a punt on something, this is the kind of thing to buy at lows like this and hold. You do have a demand zone that it has formed at the lows here, and it's broken out twice. It's now retesting it. If it starts making higher highs here, it's probably nice, but I'm not going to sit here and say this is something that's going to run. I have zero trust in shitcoins, especially at the bottom of the bear market. But if it's something you want to hold in your portfolio, this is the kind of chart you want to see, right? To if dollar cost average into, or just put something in and take a punt and hope it runs over the next few years. One of those ones to forget, in my opinion. Get a few of those. Near, says Marty. All right, mate. Let's do near. I see a lot of people talking about this at the moment. Whoa, scribbles from before. Hey, it's following my scribbles from before. Right. So we have done this before. And we can give a little update, right? So Pico bottom down here, comes off of it. Then we have a really big range that had formed throughout most of last summer. And then it breaks down. And this is sort of what I'm talking about on Bitcoin, right? We have a really big range. And then at the bottom of the range, we have another one that kind of forms like that and then sells off to the lows. This is kind of what I'm expecting on Bitcoin, or looking out for on Bitcoin. So this is where the sell-off does put in the new lows, finally breaks these ones to come test the Pico bottom. And this is holding the market down. And then we get this lovely little rounded retrace, get a bit of bullish momentum build in. We have a demand zone here, and it rips up and takes out multiple supply zones and then comes up to the new high. So we know there's a lot of buying interest at this point, and we know it's a good level to look at because it's where the buying took place to come up and break these highs. It kind of looks a little bit dribbly, like it might come down and test that 1.5 level, but also maybe not. So on H4, we have this low gets taken out, but then we get a bit of a range that forms, I would say probably like that, comes down, like forms a range, sticks at the lows, and now starts taking out the highs, and then is looking like threatening to higher highs. So it looks like it could run, to be honest, but equally, if it just like if Bitcoin sinks, for example, this is probably going to sink as well, right? In which case you could look to short it down to that 1.5 area. I think based on the price action alone, I'd probably favor that, but also start looking for higher highs as somewhere to follow through. But yeah, like that's a nice little map to play around with, I think. On H4, 1.992 is the high of the range, and then 1.841 is the low. You could also like just mark it a little bit looser, like so, because it might build for longer. But that's where I'd be looking at. I don't really know what it's going to do. Whether this is just going to be a retrace before lower lows. I'd probably argue that, considering the state of the rest of the market. So I would be careful here, but that 1.5 area would be a really good area to start looking to buy from, in my opinion. Does that help? Did you have any questions on that? JMO was happy with aave, how do we say it? I don't believe in coins anymore. Good. The only coin you should believe in on crypto is Bitcoin. Speaking of, what is it doing? A whole bunch, not much. All right. Any other questions or anything? Any other stream requests? Otherwise, I'm going to jump over to the next section, which is about teaching something called max pain level. Got Will Hunting on stream on Wednesday, by the way. So that's going to be a good one. If you've got any questions for him as well, let me know and I'll try and include him on the stream. But yeah, it doesn't look like any questions. If there are, I'll just get to them after this section. Just keep things rocking and rolling. So section 3 is about taking trades at the extreme of supply and demand zones. It's an area I call max pain level. Like I said before, it's not my term. It comes from where I learned to read price action, which is a website called readthemarket.com. They're still up. They're behind a paywall. If you want to check their stuff out, or you can just like listen to me, because I basically took some of their basic concepts and ran with it for the past 11 years and built a ton of nuance on top of it as well. But the fundamentals I basically teach anyway. So max pain level is like a bit of a nuanced take on supply and demand. And if you have heard me talk about this before, then hopefully it's a good refresher. So essentially, let's find a good example. I'll show the concept first, and then I'll try to find some real examples. So let's say you have a trend up, you have a range that forms, and then it breaks out to the upside, and now you've got your demand zone, right? Typically, you would mark your demand zones the entire zone, like so. And I keep this pretty simple, right? If I've got a demand zone and we're trending up, I want to start looking at the high, the shallow part of that level in order to get a retrace, because you would be expecting, to get a bounce to go higher and continue the trend. You'd be expecting that level to hold. You don't really want it going deep into liquidity, because you're expecting the trend just to continue quickly. Usually they come at the top, right? If, however, let's say like you've ended up putting a supply zone in and then it tests it and it comes down like so, or maybe we're in a downtrend like that, for your demand zone, if you're looking for it, maybe you are looking for it to bounce so you can get in higher, get a move that moves higher, sorry. But you wouldn't start confirming shorts basically until the extreme of it is taken out. So when I mark my zones, I keep the range really, but the high of it I'm looking in trending markets for either a range at that point or for it to just wick into it and go. But in a reversal situation, I especially want to focus on the bottom part of the level, because I know maybe that high can bounce it, but it's usually probably not strong enough to push that high, and it's going to gravitate towards the extreme of the level. So at this point, it's called max pain level, because if you are long, you're at max pain basically if you are long, if you are long on a breakout, for example, you're going to move your stop to the other side of the range, because we know that if the range breaks, we're going to trend to the downside. So if price comes down all the way to the low of this demand zone, we're now at max pain level, because if it just ticks a little bit lower, it takes us out. But it's also the exact point where if it's going to bounce, it's going to bounce from here. It has no other reason to. It's either going to break or bounce from this last like stand and then push up like that. So that's why it's called max pain level. And this is basically where you'll find the best risk reward opportunities, because what's going to happen at this point, as I've been alluding to earlier on, is that it's either going to do one of two things. It's either going to break through and change the market structure and trend the opposite way, in which case what we would do, let's say we have our sell, like so. We have a new market structure. So we'd be looking to continue the trend. And again, we'd be looking at the shallow part of the area to continue the trend on a quick retrace. If it comes down, takes the lows, and then forms, and we're looking for a reversal in such a situation, we're going to be looking up to the extreme of that point. Okay. So again, it's either going to do one or two things. It's going to respect it, or it's going to break it and then start a new trend to the next area of liquidity. Maybe at this point in what I've drawn, that's here. So we know if it trends up and takes out max pain level, we know it's going to likely trend to the next area up here. So our trade is from here up to here. But if you're looking, say, for example, where price ranges at the shallow part and then breaks out of the range there, you've still got max pain to contend with, and it might respect it and come back down. The same with, like, it might do it a little bit lower. But if max pain breaks and ranges like this, we know it's broken and it's now setting up a new trend to the next area of liquidity. So for me, this is the logical place to look to trade. This is where you want to be looking either for a respect of the trend or a break and a new trend. It's at these points where the chart is going to make a decision, and it's going to do it pretty, not swiftly, but it's not going to spend a huge amount of time there. So you can look at that in one or two ways with your trading decision. You look at it as, right, I want to either look for a reversal back down in such a case where we're in a downtrend that favors it. But if we, for example, we're in an uptrend and we come right up to the extreme of the level, are you going to trust a breakout to the downside when we're trending up? Probably not. So you'd wait for the confirmation of max pain level getting broken and then start to look to trade to the upside. So if we just look at some actual examples, let me just get rid of all this shit. Let's see if we can find one. I want it for like a really textbook example, right? Just to highlight the point. Here's kind of one. This would highlight more the taking the shallow part for a trend. So when you're drawing supply and demand, you've got the uptrend, you've got the breakout to the upside. It's not really convincing here, and then it actually puts in a breakout. Instead of looking for max pain, you're going to miss your orders because it comes to the shallow part of the level and then rips to the upside. So that's a nice example on that front. Here again, if you're looking at this, for example, as your demand zone, it's trending up, right? It's not coming to bounce on after swinging all the way around. It's not going to come just to bounce off the top of it. You're going to be focusing on the extreme of it. And as you can see here, if I just mark the extreme of the level, your decision making is coming to a much narrow area. You'll get better risk reward, but you'll get better decision making from the market. And the way I mark them, it really varies, but in general, let's say like we've trended up, we've retraced, and then I've just used here the bottom candle and then like the bottom wick of the retrace. Sometimes I might just use the bottom of the retrace here. You can get it like super accurate sometimes like that. That's the bottom of this entire zone. And it makes your charts look a lot cleaner. But you can look at this in two ways. Like I said, you can look at that for your decision making to enter. But if you're, for example, short from like up here, or maybe you listen to my trades at 105 and then dropped it down and sold with me, you can target a little bit further on, target the extreme of the level rather than a little bit higher and sacrificing some risk reward. You'll be able to see that this is going to be the end of that target. So this is going to target the end of that level, and that's where I'm hoping for it, and that's what it kind of tends to do. Here you've got a nice drop, you've got a nice supply zone at this point, and the supply is confirmed. We have a drop, we have a base, and then we have a drop. In this instance, it's gone all the way back up to the extreme and then dropped. So it's not a hard and fast rule, what I'm being saying, but it's kind of one that I have tended to follow. And if I just use the highest wick and then the highest close, you can see it comes all the way back up to that point, to max pain, and then drops. I don't think it's done anything there. Yeah, and then this is an example I put in a document the other day for my subscribers. If you've got a situation here where you're seeing a bottom of the market and you're going long, how do you know where to target? I mean, this was a sensible target because you're taking the bottom of the zone and it drops down, but it doesn't follow through. So you know if it's holding up at that point, it's going to come all the way up to the extreme as it does, and then you can get your TP a little bit higher. But also on the flip side of it, right, it's taken out the level. It hasn't given a continuation to the upside, but if it is going to continue up, it's going to put in a pretty nice pattern. In this case, it ranges at the highs and then starts breaking down. So you know, even though it hasn't done it at the exact high of the level, it's doing it roundabouts near enough where it looks like a fake out. And then you know if it starts selling back down below it, it's going to be a top. And that's basically like where I shorted from the other month. And I've been putting that all like on X and everything, right? Because it was that clear to me. Same situation here. Like we've trended down. And then where do I want to take a trade? Well, I don't really want to take it at the shallow part because it hasn't moved into it quick enough. It's built it over several days. So I know it's most likely going to come back to the extreme. And then in this instance, we have a pretty clean zone. And we have the wick at the high. And then what I would do is just use the high of the wick and then the highest candle body in that zone and mark that as the extreme. And then you can see it comes right up to that point, right up to that high of that candle, and then drops down. But again, if you're long down here, how do you know whether you want to take your profits here? Let's say you've got an absolute killer long like here. How do you know whether to take your profits there or there? Well, this is a reaction to this. So the absolute extreme of it is usually where price gravitates to. And then you can see it comes up and hits that zone. So that's max pain level. And you can see like on my charts, it keeps things clean. Like at this point, I'm using the highest wick and then the close, like the highest close in essentially this is our zone here. If I go down to H2, probably a bit cleaner, where we have drop, base, drop. So I'm using the highest wick and then the highest candle body. And then you can see we're roundabouts ranging at this point, at this key area. And then this is a really nice example. You've got that big wick, and then you've got the candles. So that's the extreme of that level, but this is all just a reaction to stuff on the left. But for the sake of an example, I would do that. Or when I'm down at this point, let's say you're here and you're looking for a retrace, you either look for the bottom of the level, or in this case, since we're a bit choppier, max pain level, price comes up, wicks it, closes back down, below max pain, and then starts closing below max pain, and then you get your sell off. So that's how I use it. And that's why you'll see like small bars on my charts at like real extremes of areas. It takes more patience to get these trades. But you can tell pretty much, like, if max pain is wicked or broken through, that gives you enough information about what's going to happen next. And usually if it's broken that, you just need to look to the next area of liquidity. So in this instance, we had this low, we had max pain, gets broken, and we know that the next target, this is all a reaction to this. So we have max pain down here, and it comes right through to it. Okay, any questions on that? Anything, or any comments? Does that make sense? Scribbler244. Altcoins are in a phase where TA is irrelevant. There are much more important forces influencing the price. Yes, I agree. They're usually on X. But yeah, I agree, man. Like the TA on some of those altcoins, you can't really do. It's low. Take a punt on it. Someone on Twitch says, "Hey there." Hello. I don't know who you are. But subscribe and follow me on X and YouTube. Right, any other questions on that? I hope that makes sense with max pain level, but it's a really powerful concept to add into your technical analysis, and it's a really powerful thing to do in order to like refine where to look to trade and know that you're trading at the extreme regions, and you're therefore more likely to get a reaction that's going to follow through, even whether it respects it or pushes up to the upside. In this instance, not really sure what it's going to do, but yeah, if it's closes down below it and then closes back above it, it looks more bullish than bearish. So yeah, that's why I don't trade like, or you'll see my my charts looking that way. It's much cleaner as well, and it helps you refine down to the right zone. So again, like in this zone, we have an impulse down, and then we get our sort of channel, and then just using the highest wick and then highest close, and then that's where I'm looking for, if it comes to 68K, it's the extreme of this entire range, and then look for a trade there. So either exhaustion here or up there, basically, but it's at the extremes of keys levels. Explained it very well. Cool. I'm glad. Are you, what platform are you on? I can't read that. Ep020 or something. I can't read it, sorry. Are you on, what platform are you on? I want to know if this chat is working, but I can't see it on YouTube. I can't see it on X. Ah, no, it is on X. Filth24. Father, I'd like to fuck. Is that what that is? I don't know why some other people's stuff on X hasn't come through, but yours has. It's very strange. Maybe you're doing something right. All right, I'm going to have a little bit of water, then we'll move on to the next section, which is about trading being lonely. You're on X. Cool. Thank you. Trading being lonely. All right, let me have my water. So I guess a lot of people might probably vibe with this and resonate with this, but Uh, Trading is really lonely, and that's something that people say, or you'll see people saying it quite a lot. Um, Fisherman, I don't know, it's fisherman. I like the fuck. um, so trading can be lonely in multiple different regards, and whether that's physically or just like people not being able to relate to you. Physical side is pretty obvious, right? Just kind of shut off from the world in your room, in your office, wherever you are. Um, Not interacting with the real world, and kind of getting isolated. And then the other side of it as well is that it forces you to change who you are in order to be a profitable trader, not only in like the habits you form, but also your world outlook. So you will look at the world completely different, either as opportunity, fake moves of like fake news, things just kind of setting up for the gain, like for financial gain for a group of people. You'll start seeing that in the charts. You'll start seeing like propaganda everywhere from news that are kind of pushing that. Um, and it creates a kind of mindset where other people are uncomfortable, particularly like if you're out and about meeting new people. It's very difficult to find someone that's kind of on the same wavelength, because you look at the world a completely different way, whereas they take it at face value because they have trust in certain establishments and medias and whatnot, where they just kind of oblivious to what's going on. Um, and I find it difficult to meet new people as a result of that, because I put a post on X a little while ago, last week or something, about how you're supposed to meet people when everyone's normies, and you're talking about chemtrails in the sky poisoning all of our air and our food supplies, poisoning our water, fluoride in the water, uh, false flag events which shape censorship and like political gains and control. And it just kind of makes you feel like a bit of a downer if you're like at a party or you're at a gathering with people and someone's talking about this, and you're either like, right, I can correct you and I'll just look like an asshole, or I've just got to grin and bear it and like suffer you. And that's kind of where I find a lot of my life. And particularly like meeting other dads, you know, um, topics around like vaccinations, whether you take kids to nursery, what food you give your kid, all this kind of thing. And it's all born for me out of a worldview that comes from trading and looking at the financial markets and looking at geopolitics in a completely different way, because you have to in order to like get an edge, right? Um, and it becomes very difficult to meet people, and sometimes just feel like, what's the point? Because I know I'm mostly going to be let down by someone. Trading takes you into like really dark places in your mind in order for you to be able to improve, because trading essentially is a catalyst for self-improvement. Sure, you can open a chart and press a button to like go long or short, but when you're long, you're going to have a load of different emotions. If you're short, like if you didn't take the trade, you've got a load of different emotions. Even if the trade's running well, you're going to have a load of detrimental uh, mind thoughts, emotions, and kind of like an overall mindset, like greed, for example, something that I suffer with quite a lot, which is born out of lack elsewhere in life. But you don't know that you have these problems until it like it depends on you making money with those problems, if that makes sense. Like if I'm taking a trade, I need to be able to first of all recognize the behavior which will prevent me from making money. So like greed, for example, with all round trip stuff, right? Just feel like something's going to go up forever. But you have to be able to recognize that you have that issue, but then also you need to be able to understand how to improve that, how to not make that a problem, and then actually action it consistently over a set period of time in order to fix that problem. And that problem, even though it's in your trading, is going to show up elsewhere in life as well. Like greed, for example, it might be that I don't know, where else can you be greedy, right? You might have a good opportunity somewhere, but you're desensitized to money because we're in this trading world. So you ask for more money and you miss this opportunity, or you're selling something and you miss out because you're asking for more opportunity, or maybe you alienate people because you're all just about like take, and stockpiling stuff yourself, not sharing with others, like it just like detrimental behavior all around your life. You'll go into the market and then that you will see that light on you and it'll be very ugly. And you have to be able to change that part of your personality in order to break through that barrier and make profits consistently. Another one like revenge trading, for example, is like an easier one. You have a problem with accepting loss. It probably makes you a very argumentative person, very stubborn person. It probably makes you difficult to be around. But when you're in the charts, you can stay like that and get absolutely nowhere, or you can admit to yourself like, fuck, I've got a bit of a problem and I need to fix that somehow so that I can make money out of this market and so that I can like keep doing this. And that type of personality and that type of mindset is an extremely rare thing because it's painful work and it takes a lot of time. And as I said, the downside of kind of doing that work is that it alienates you from people in a way where you separate your mind from them because no one's really like, oh yeah, do you know what? I can fuck like sitting there watching the football tonight. I'm gonna go and journal my thoughts and why I acted like such an asshole today, or examine why I lost today, or kind of just sweep it under the carpet, make excuses for it, and come back tomorrow and do something else. Um, it puts you in a different mindset, and it puts you like in a frame of mind where you look at everything else completely different. And as I said, when you're meeting new people, not many people have done that work, and it's very rare to find someone that has done that work. And even though, like, I met some dude today, this family, we just went down to the pool and met someone there. Like, they just started chatting to us and exchanged numbers and maybe meet up with them at some point. But when we've had that before, it's like, yeah, we might have a few things in common, but then it gets to like a deeper level and it's like, now we've hit a ceiling and this can't go any further. Like someone might make a comment like, oh, Trump's an asshole, or something politically you disagree with, or do you see like just falling for like clear propaganda. And you're like, we have a ceiling with this relationship now because you don't see things on the same level as me. And that becomes a really lonely part of trading. And like I'm sitting here like I want to go on holiday with some mates this year. All of my mates that I've kind of got now are like family orientated. It's very difficult. Like if you've got a young, like one of my mates, like close mates, got a young baby, he can't get away from that because the baby's got loads of problems. He can't go away for like a week for a lad's holiday and leave his missus there, like struggling. Got a couple of mates like that. I have other mates that live abroad. Um, most of my mates are like really far away. And I sometimes like just want to blow off some steam, go off on like a nice European holiday with some lads and, have no responsibilities for a week. And I realized like the guys that I used to do that with, I'm no longer friends with because when I ended up doing loads of self-improvement work, it makes you realize how you behave with others and what people will pigeonhole you as. So you'll start doing the work to stop self-sabotaging your life and stop having poor results and having outcomes that frustrate you over and over again. And you'll do the work to improve yourself. And then you'll see where others are lacking and where their mindsets are causing them issues within their lives. But they'll never, ever be the type that say, I want to improve this because I'm fed up of it. Like I said, they'll just sweep it under the carpet and then just keep making excuses for it. Same with family. You'll realize like your family is completely different to you, and they'll stay stuck in like negative behaviors and self-sabotaging behaviors, which frustrates you, and you'll try help them and they just won't get it or won't want to stick with it. And like I've like have a very poor relationship with my mother, having like gone through a lot of stuff with trading, but also like being a father now and realizing how I want to do things versus like what she did. And you can see what harm she did and what harm I'm trying to prevent for my son, for example. And you can't have a conversation with her like that. But this is all comes from, I want to watch this box go up on, I want this like green box on the chart to go up, and I need to be able to hold that, or I need to be able to get in at the right time, or I need to not lose my shit when that green box turns into a red box and takes my money away. It all comes from that, and has, I've found, made it really difficult to meet people outside of the trading world, which is obviously contained within like the internet mostly. It's very difficult to like meet a trader in real life. Um, and it kind of makes you feel lonely. It makes you feel like you're not really part of anything. Um, Even though the rewards of doing that work, the consistent money, the ability to perform at a high level in this task or this career that you've given yourself, which means so much to you, like it feels really good. But the downside of that is it isolates you from so many people. And that's part of why I do these streams, part of why I do the podcast as well with other guests, is to meet new people within this field and get to know them a little bit better and talk to people that have got similar mindsets and have gone through similar experiences. But on a week to week basis, it feels very fucking lonely. And spend most of my time in my thoughts or writing down my thoughts or clearing my thoughts. Um, it's very difficult, especially when you've got a family, to meet new people and to want to go and do stuff. But I think that's a dark side of trading that not many people really kind of appreciate. And I feel like it's something which someone in the pro trading world might look at that and go, "What the fuck are you talking about, man?" But it's completely different when you're a real retail trader, because you have no support network. You have no one like mentoring you. You have no one over your shoulder telling you like, "You screwed up here. This is how you solve it, and this is how you um this is why you act that way, and this is how you make sure you don't do it again." You don't have that. So you have a lot of like shit we have to go through as retail traders, and we have to figure out ourselves. And well, you'd come to a point in your trading where you'll realize like, this is what I want to be doing. This is what the thing that makes means the most to me. So I'm going to do whatever it takes. And that ends up being like you cut people out of your life, especially ones where you start putting boundaries up because you realize like what kind of shit you won't take anymore. And if you've known people for a very long time, they've put you into a box where they will treat you a certain way, which you will no longer be happy with. And then just changing who you are, ultimately you kind of fall out of place with those people. But you have to change who you are in order to be successful with trading. Like everyone who comes to trading, like not one single person has come to trading being like the finished article. And usually that will mean that, why am I wasting energy with certain people who aren't looking to progress like I am? Or why am I hanging out with people who don't think the same way as me and frustrate me and just like constantly wrong? Or do I want to be the asshole constantly like correcting people? Do I want to be the guy that's just sitting there biting his tongue, like listening to retards talk? Or do I just like go and do my own thing? And eventually, I think most people end up realizing I'm just going to do my own thing. So yeah, it's just like a poisoned chalice in a way, this game, trading. It is a lonely venture, but it's probably one of the most rewarding things, because when you have figured it out yourself and no one has like helped you along the way, and you get the rewards for it and you get the vindication for it, it feels really good, and you wouldn't trade it for anything. But you still at the other side of it going, it just feels a little bit like, is this all there is to life? I don't know. I feel like with my trading, I'm going to be getting to a point over the next couple of years where I automate it more, um, and spend more time with the family, because it's just, after you've done it for a long period of time and you're sitting there and day after day just not getting opportunities, or you're waiting hours and hours for opportunities, and it's sunny outside and you're sitting in like a dark room waiting for a fucking green candle to break out. It's just like, what's the point? There's got to be better ways to do this. So I'm kind of in that mindset at the moment. Does anyone relate to that? Or just talking shit? I think that is one of the most difficult part, but glad to have people like you. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. It is a very difficult part of trading. It is a really difficult part of doing this, and I don't think people, when they get into trading, realize that. You are not alone. Thanks, man. Thank you. But yeah, this is why I like doing these streams. Blow off some steam, talk about stuff. Hopefully find people that can relate. But yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to call it there. It's been an hour and 20. Covered some nice stuff in this. Just waiting for the markets to build a little bit more. I still think that we're going to be coming down at some point, but I think we're building for it rather than expecting a move anytime soon. So we'll watch out for that. If you're not in my subscriptions channel or my Discord, hit subscribe on X. We talk about the opportunities as and when they present during the day. We have daily market reviews, morning and evening. You get that in video form, you get it in written form, and you get educational content once a week. Technical analysis related, or things like how I manage risk, how I trail stop losses, how I set targets, how I like what I found to be a factor that broke me out of being a losing trader and like figuring it out, anything really. So come and hit subscribe on that. It's $30 a month. And yeah, we've had some good trades, we've had some good lessons, and have fun in there. All right. Have a good rest of the evening. I'll see you on Wednesday for the stream of Will Hunting.